All right. Thank you all for joining. My name is Joel Farrell. And my platforms, we're all talking about how do you get ahead in this crazy world, high inflation, income is tight. How are people getting ahead? The people that I'm seeing that are getting ahead are the ones that are increasing income and then using creative strategies to invest. And so I want to thank my friend here, Chris Iannotti, coming on here from Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, real estate agent, real estate investor. But yeah, what's the one thing right now that's got you pumped up about the industry right now?
Hey, Joel, first and foremost, thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate the time. Right now, what we're seeing in the real estate market as far as being an agent and being an investor is there's a lot of opportunities to not just make money, but also to help other people. And to me, that's a huge part of this process and a huge part of why I love what I do. Um, what I've been noticing and the people I've been working with are, there's an area of Nashville called Clarksville, which is north of town. That's one of the largest military bases in the country. And what we're seeing is a lot of the officers are buying houses and then shortly thereafter being transferred out of state somewhere. So they need to move and sell their house, but they don't have enough equity built up in the house. Maybe they bought at a higher rate and their principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment, their monthly nut, as you might call it, is too high for them to find a renter just to temporarily rent the house from them, right? So what we've been doing is we take over those houses for those homeowners subject to their existing mortgage, where we'll take that rate that they have, we'll take that payment that they have already set in place, and we'll make those mortgage payments for them. All the paperwork is put into place so that the deed does transfer. So for me as the buyer, I'm getting all the tax benefits of owning the property, right? Okay. For him, he's not having to pay commissions and deal with showings and have to sell the property. And as a caveat, if there's any payments missed, the property automatically reverts back to him, doesn't have to go through the whole eviction process. So I've helped him out of his situation. He's free to move. The mortgage is being taken care of. It positively affects his credit because it shows that he's making all of his payments on time. And then what I do is to help the community there. There is a large workforce. Hancock is one. They have a big battery plant there. Public transportation is very easy to find and get to there. So we do what was called co-living now. Rather than just rent the house out to one family, we create month-to-month leases. We create each bedroom as an actual unit, and we rent those rooms out to people that are trying to get back on their feet. Maybe they can't afford $1,200, $1,500 a month for an apartment, And so we're getting $700 to $800 a month per bedroom, which actually now the property cash flows. It's helping these people get back on their feet, helping them get established and hopefully be able to save some money so they can afford to either buy a home or rent a place of their own in the future.
As a renter, and you're renting a room at a discounted rate, but you're co-living, right? You're sharing space.
Yeah.
What's the mentality in navigating that when you're in a kind of a joint space? I mean, how does that? Are there more issues? Are there more questions that pop up, or things you have to be able to work on or take care of as a landlord?
Well, let me be completely honest. I don't want to sugarcoat or fib at all. There are challenges that come up, and the way that we've navigated that is we try to create expectations and a community from the get-go, right? So like in the lease, we have expectations and rules that we expect them to live by, honoring quiet hours, being mindful of other people and not having guests over at all hours, getting the other people's permission before you bring somebody over. So ours are not co-ed. We actually have one house, a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house that is only females. And so that alleviates a lot of trouble with men, being there. And then another house, we have a 4-bedroom house that's all men. And that seems to work the best. But sure, there's going to be people that butt heads, and we try to keep from having to get involved in that as much as possible, right? We feel like if we set the expectations correctly, we're doing our screening thoroughly, we're meeting with the people in person and getting a feel for who they are, their work schedule, their hours, their background, and putting people together in an environment to where they're set up to succeed makes all the difference in the world. We've had older women living with younger women, and it worked out great. The older women tended to cook and help keep the place clean. The younger women were very friendly, polite, and just cooperative, and it's worked out really well.
Can you take one of those examples and just walk us through the numbers on payment, rents, other expenses?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 4-bedroom house that we have is literally 1 block away from the military base. And that road that military base is on is lined up with buses and plenty of jobs up and down the road. So we found 4 guys. And to be honest with you, they recently had either come out of prison or some kind of drug rehabilitation program, which to a lot of landlords, let's be honest, that's a risky endeavor working with that clientele and that demographic. But that is part of our goal, is to help our community. So we took these 4 guys that we interviewed and went through an application process. They were upfront and honest and told us about their background and their history. And we explained that we were willing to look past that. So the house itself was a 4-bedroom. The gentleman that owned the house was in the military, had to move. The payment was $1,900 a month, give or take some change. That's, again, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, everything. We gave him $5,000 as a down payment to help him with his moving expenses, and we took over the mortgage and start making the mortgage payment. So we numbered each unit. We gave each guy, a link through our software to where they could pay their rent online through an app on their phone. Set up our expectations, set up the month-to-month leases. They each have their own space in the kitchen and in the bathroom. That is their individual space, you know what I mean, for keeping their personal items. And every month, like clockwork, we also included, I should throw this in there, to take care of the utilities. We made a flat fee for a utility package. So $150 a month per resident will cover the lights, the everything, man, the Wi-Fi, cable, all that kind of stuff. So it more than covers it. If there's high months, there's low months, we've got enough surplus in there to cover for that. So they make their rent payment, their utility payment every month. And man, it's like, it's the greatest thing. They all get along really well. They take turns cooking dinner with each other. They take turns cleaning the kitchen, the bathroom, every time we pop up there, because that is another thing. We need to make sure that we're there doing the lawn maintenance. We're there, changing the AC filters, not just to make sure the house is staying kept up, but also to keep an eye on the property and our asset. And these guys are immaculate. The place is, I'm shocked every time I go there. I'm waiting to see Animal House one time when I show up. And so far it's been great. It's been fantastic. And they love it. They're all very grateful. Every time I talk to them, they're very appreciative for the opportunity. So
that's awesome. Yeah, there's one thing in there that I think is really underrated right now, and it's the community part. I mean, there's just so many people that are siloed off on their own, and it can be very challenging depending on where you are in your journey to find that community, work, home, family, etc. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I was in my hometown, which was Florissant, and there's the recreational center with basketball gym and pool and all that stuff. They've got a really cool esports area that they built out a couple years back, and I was checking it out, just thinking, okay, I've got 5-year-old twin boys. Maybe they can learn how to play Minecraft or whatever. And this place was bumping with, all teenagers. They were having so much fun, and they had built their own community. So question for you, I want you to do 2 things. I want you to explain a little bit about your background, and then you've been in Nashville for a little bit, and you've been building your own community of like-minded people. So can you give us a little bit of background on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm born and raised in Chicago, and had some experiences as a younger person with addiction, and also just where I lived, man, it was a lot of criminal activity going on. And the long story short is I was able to get my life right, okay, and get straightened out. And back in 2015, I started an organization called Dark Horse Ministries. I had started going to church, man, and not to get into religion or politics or anything like that, but I just noticed that the people that we were supposed to be praying for and trying to help were being ignored or neglected by the general population, right? The people that are in prison, the people that are coming out of prison, trying to get back on 2 feet, and life for them is really difficult, man. Like getting out of prison, you already have a bad record. You're trying to find a job, but you don't have a vehicle. You've got a parole officer that's expecting you to cross your T's and dot your I's, but they're not giving you the tools that you need to really succeed. So started an organization to really try to focus on the reentry side of things. And that went really well until COVID. We weren't, able to volunteer and reach out like we were actively doing for 5 years previous. And so when I got here to Nashville, I ran into a group called the Beat of Life. And the Beat of Life is an excellent program here that goes to prisons all over the country. And it's more music focused. They bring songwriters and musicians from big record labels to the prisons. We write music with the inmates. The same day that we write a song with that inmate, they're in front of the rest of their staff, their peers, and the staff that work there performing that same song that they just wrote. And it's a way to help them kind of work through their trauma. And it's awesome. We're doing it here in Nashville and several other cities and states across the country. We do have a golf tournament coming up October 9th. It'll be our first golf tournament, and I'm helping organize that. We have some big names. I don't want to say any names, but one might be another name for a pastry product, jelly roll. We're hoping will be there. He's one of our best sponsors that we have, along with Reba McEntire and some other awesome names that are just really have a heart for that community. And I've never been to prison, thank God, but I still have a heart for those people because I see so many of my friends that I grew up with come out, try to get their life together, and just end up right back in that same vicious cycle, doing the same things over and over again. And if I can be of any assistance to help stop that cycle, man, the effects reach their kids, the rest of their family members, and other young people that are coming up underneath them that kind of see that same cycle.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. On the real estate side of things, right? Again, I live in St. Louis, and you lived in St. Louis for a bit, and that's how we know each other.
Great.
But watching some of your socials and us just staying in touch, I know that you've hosted and helped host some pretty cool real estate events over in Nashville as well.
Yeah,
pretty big names. So, what's that all about?
It's been awesome, man. There is a huge community of investors here, real estate agents, investors. Some people are into wholesaling. So like I started selling real estate in 2003 back in Chicago, and all I knew was what I learned from other real estate agents, right? Was the traditional transactions. And moving here to Nashville, man, I really learned about so many other aspects of the real estate game that I see a lot of real estate agents are just kind of oblivious to, don't really know about. And because they don't know about it, they automatically suspect that it's scandalous, it's fraudulent, it's bad, it's negative. And I've taken the time to get to know these people and get to understand their strategies. And it's actually helped my business tremendously. I started this year, January, February, as we know in this market and in this industry, is usually a slow time of year. I started the year out with 4 listings right away because of working with these investors, where they have, homeowners in a certain kind of position, kind of like what I discussed with the soldiers, right? But everyone's got their own situation where maybe a traditional transaction doesn't work, right? So these novation deals are ones that have made me quite a bit of money already this year, where, an investor has a contract with the homeowner. There's some repairs that need to be made. The homeowner doesn't have the money to make those repairs to prepare the house for sale. And so we have contractors that come out and do the work, get the house market ready. I list the property, we sell it, the investor and the homeowner settle up on the back end, and everybody's happy, But if you ask other realtors or even some title companies or even some real estate attorneys, they'll say, no, that's not legal according to our association. That's just a wholesale deal. They don't take the time to actually try to learn and figure out the intricacies, the ins and outs, and how it works. And it's not illegal. Obviously, I wouldn't risk my license or my reputation if something was illegal, or we're helping people and we're doing it the right way. So, yeah, the community I've been involved with here in Nashville, they're doing creative finance, they're doing novations, they're doing wholesaling, they're developing, they're buying lots, or they're flipping land. They're doing all this cool stuff that I never knew about, and you won't learn about in any real estate class or any CE course. and it's just been awesome. It is a tight-knit community, and about once a month we get together, we plan an event, and we pick cool spots to do it into. So we're supporting local businesses in Nashville as well. So that's my biggest goal, Joel, and what I've been working on is like, how can I help other people learn, grow my business, meet new people, network. If I can cross off 5 boxes at one time, that's just how I'm made. That's what I try to do, and it's been awesome. It's been a success, and hopefully it stays that way.
What is the group that meets every month? Is there a name or a group name, or what's that?
Yeah, there's several different groups. There's the typical REINs, right? The Real Estate Investing Network groups. BNI is another one where it's a business networking group that meets out here. But the Creative Finance, I don't know if I can use his name, but Pace Morby is kind of the guru for all the creative finance guys. And each city and state will have their own groups, and it's fairly organized, but it's still welcoming to anybody that wants to come in. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no fees involved. Nobody charges to come to these events. It's really awesome for new people that come to the city. We see it all the time. Hey, I just moved to Nashville. I'm trying to connect and meet some people and get a feel for what's going on. And they're welcomed with open arms. And yeah, somebody's willing to take anybody under their wing and show them the ropes. And so that's pretty cool. You don't see that a lot. Some people are territorial, and they don't like newcomers coming in.
The renting room strategy, what's the term that you call that?
It's called co-living. There is a company called Pad Split that's out here that's doing it, and they're growing tremendously. I think they're based out of Atlanta. They just came to Nashville a couple of weeks ago, and the owner of the company, the actual CEO of Pad Split, came out and described it. So their strategy is a little bit different. It works, but with Pad Split, they have the tenants pay weekly. So it alleviates any kind of, somebody not paying rent type of thing. But what we do to combat that is we put keypads, keyless entries on each door. So if they don't pay and they're aware that the combination is going to be changed and they won't be able to have access to the room until they pay.
Yeah.
But Pad Split suggests also turning common living areas into bedrooms, like literally doing construction and putting up walls and taking like a large dining room and turning it into a bedroom, building bathrooms to make bathrooms more accessible. We took the more simple route. We just took existing bedrooms that are already there and kind of look for that in properties. Like they have to have enough bathrooms to kind of fit. So take all that into consideration. Pad Split's a great company. They're doing great things, growing tremendously, but it costs as well. They'll do all the screening, all the background checks, all the marketing to find your tenants, and things like that. And we just decided to take that on ourselves, which is a huge job, though. Property management is not something to be taken lightly. It's a lot of work, for sure.
So the stuff that you guys run, how many people do you have involved in your team?
There's 3 of us altogether that own the company, and then we have 1 assistant that helps us out as far as showing properties, making sure people are getting their applications and getting them filled out and getting them back to us. But there's 3 of us altogether that run the whole program. And right now we've got 28 doors altogether.
28 doors. Okay.
Yeah. So when we say 28 doors, that's 28 individual units that we have people renting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So real estate, right? Investing in real estate, the 4 pillars: cash flow, tax benefits, appreciation, and principal pay down.
Right.
So having this strategy with, renting by the room, I guess in theory, you're talking higher revenue up top, right? A little bit more variance maybe because you're talking about month to month and people coming and going.
Right.
But these deals, it sounds like, don't work on normal 12-month leases, right? But with renting by the room makes the deal cash flow properly, right?
I think the biggest issue is we want to see a certain level of cash flow at all times. And so if we are looking at somebody that has bought a house with a higher rate, their PITI is high. If we were just to rent to one family, the amount of cash flow, we might break even, it might be $100, and that's just not good business. As far as you got to have an emergency fund. And so, yeah, you definitely cash flow more by doing the rent by room process. The equity, the buy down of the principal rate obviously is helpful. And that's the long-term goal. Our goal is 5 years, hold on to the property for 5 years, take whatever equity is left in the property at that point, either sell the property or take 70% of the equity out and use it to buy another property. But it's low entry. So as far as cash out of pocket, it's minimal going in. As far as operating, it kind of pays for itself, and we're cash flowing. And then, the principal being paid down is always nice. And yeah, taking care, we take those tax benefits up front, all of it first year, because why not? That's what it's there for.
Like a cost segregation type of study, or
yeah, we'll do a cost segregation, but we'll usually take that 27 and a half years of depreciation. We'll take that all up front and use that as a break for us.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
From a standpoint of real estate lending, right? I mean, rates are high, prices are high, volume of transactions are at historic lows.
Mm-hmm.
So having creative strategies that can help somebody make a deal happen that otherwise wouldn't be able to get done is an opportunity to be able to increase deal flow, to have more transactions. What are you doing to be able to find these opportunities in terms of
Yeah, I was just at a networking event yesterday, and that's one of the things I do, man, is I stay active. Like we can get caught up in this bubble, this stress bubble. If I gotta find more leads, I have to, generate business somehow. And you can end up in a bubble in your house, sitting at your desk, paying for lists of leads and dialing away. I mean, you're running risks of calling people on do not call lists. It's really hard to get actual good numbers that actually work for people. And the same people, if you are finding good phone numbers for people, they're getting hounded. Their phones are ringing off the hook with other agents and other investors that are trying to find business. So for me, what I'm doing is I'm out there on the streets, man. I think there's so much value in meeting other people, and not necessarily just people in your industry or your line of work, right? We have to meet the actual consumers where they're at. And so I try to, if I'm not trying to host an event, I'm going to somebody else's event, going out in public places, going to Top Golf, going to the golf course, spending time, like just introducing myself to people and just talking, and not being the pushy real estate guy or the sales guy, like not just saying, hey, my name's Chris and I sell real estate, just having a normal conversation with them, and then, kind of sprinkling that in there. It's funny how the topic or the conversation comes up if somebody doesn't ask you, what do you do for a living? It's just amazing how people talk about houses and about how they want to sell or how they want to buy, or they want to talk about the market and they want to talk about the stock market, what's going on in the world. And those are like easy opportunities to segue into, conversations about your business. And I'll say too, the market being the way it is, this is our time to get creative and try to do our homework and try to learn and understand other opportunities, other avenues of doing things. I try to come across as positive and friendly about it as I can, but I do get frustrated sometimes when I do hear other agents or other brokers across the country just not being willing to embrace new ideas and new concepts and new ways of doing things. I think that's a huge detriment.
So let's say you come across a realtor and they just happen to have a potential client who wants to sell their house, but like you said before, hey, it's going to take a bunch of money to fix it up properly to get the price that we need to be able to pay it off. And maybe they bought it in 2022, right? Or 23, and values are flat. They've got a high rate. Maybe they put 3.5% down, 5% down, whatever, and they're stuck. And if that realtor comes to the conclusion that, I can't sell your house without having maybe a short sale or a shortfall, and you come into the table with cash, would that be an opportunity for that realtor to think, okay, I know Chris Iannotti, I need to call him. Maybe he can come up with a strategy that makes this deal work and acquire it. Am I on the right track?
You're totally on the right track. Yeah. And I'll say this too. I think a huge part of the puzzle that's missing today is the willingness for one professional to help another without having their hand out. I would take any agent in that situation and offer what I know to try to help them, because it's only going to help benefit me in the long run, because they'll know in the future if they have somebody in Nashville that they're going to call me. You know what I mean? And plus, it's just good karma to just help people whenever you can. But yeah, absolutely. I have a client in that same scenario right now. Their house, I just sold it to them last year. They have the husband's job is moving him out of state. They have another house that they want to buy, but they happen to need some work done to their house, right? They don't have the cash, but I have the contractors.
Yep.
Contractors will come in, will do the work that they need to do. They're willing to go on the HUD statement and get paid in 30 days when I have the property sold. And so why wouldn't I offer that? So yeah, I would hope that if anyone is in a position where the house just doesn't seem like it can get sold, there's always a way to get a property sold. As long as the numbers are right, we'll get a property sold. It's just a matter of being creative.
Do you think enough realtors know about this type of a strategy?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Would you be opposed if I shared one strategy that you can do to create more awareness?
Yeah, not at all. It'd be a pleasure. It would just make our industry and our job a much better place and a much better thing. I feel like sometimes I'm embarrassed to admit that I'm a real estate agent, man, because a lot of us are getting a bad rap. You know what I mean? Of being just used car salesmen. We only know one track thinking and one way of thinking, and that's it. So yeah, the novation is a great deal. I mean, Joel, you're in the mortgage industry. You know, novation is a lending term that we use, right? And basically all it is the seller is keeping the mortgage in their name while repairs are taking place on the property and the property's getting sold. I mean, it's so simple, and people are complicating it too.
I mean, I've never heard the term before, to be honest.
You never have?
I've never heard it before.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lending term where basically somebody is doing work on a property while they are holding on to the mortgage. So, you know, the other option is like assuming loans. A loan assumption is, you know, somebody's got to go through the process of actually getting approved to get the loan.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Where you could just do the sub-2 deal, which the banks obviously aren't huge fans of it, but there is a line for it on a HUD statement, on a closing statement, where that kind of stuff is discussed, man, where somebody is just taking over the rights to make the payment on the property. So you could be a glorified property manager that is just taking care of the escrow payments on the property.
Yeah.
Who the deed is getting transferred to and who's paying the property taxes and the homeowner's insurance is a whole nother subject, you know?
So two things that kind of going back to the way to be able to create more awareness. Two things that you may be able to do easily is you could do a guide of some of the things that we're talking about, but probably that could be more impactful would be maybe like a case study. Take a scenario, maybe you use different numbers and don't use person's names, but take the scenario A to Z, map it out of how this person was coming up with a problem or a challenge. This is how we overcome it. And once you've got that case study built out, you can just type it up and then put it into ChatGPT and tell it to make it into a better, case study. And then once you start talking about these different things on social media, whether it be IG or Facebook, every single time you post up in the same lane of topic, if you want my case study on how, and you want to be able to be specific to real estate agents, for example, if you're an agent having trouble selling a deal, check out this case study. This is how we helped XYZ agent or buy whatever. And over time, and as we talked about before we came on here, consistency, that's the hard thing in our industry because we're just dealing with chaos every single day. It's crazy.
And that's where I give you your kudos, man. You definitely deserve your flowers. You are one of the most consistent people I know in this industry as far as staying on top of social media, trying to help others learn how to grow income streams. I mean, dude, it's a blessing what you provide. And I agree with you 100%. I definitely need to do that. And maybe you can help me implement all that.
Hell yeah, man. And the thing about it is that I was with a buddy of mine and somebody that I know for a long time, somebody that's actually worked for me. And we were catching up on some old stuff. And he's like, dude, sometimes, man, you got to think about yourself. I see all your stuff. You're putting stuff out there. It's all about other people, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, dude, this is what it's all about. But him having comments and he's seeing it, he doesn't comment on anything.
Yeah.
He never comments on anything. He never interacts, but he sees it. And that's the one thing that if anybody is here watching this, when it comes to content and social media, whatever expectations you have on it, throw it out the window. Because, time-wise, it's going to take time to have any type of impact and results. And two, if you think that you're going to directly get leads or business from social media, it's a icing on the cake kind of thing. It's a way to open up doors and create credibility and create relationships with people is how I would describe the biggest opportunity with being able to do content. And I remember this one time I was able to interview Devin Alexander, who is a local St. Louis, professional, won championships in boxing, in the Olympics, like big, and he's got his own foundation now. And I was talking to a contact randomly, and we were just chatting, and he's like, I know somebody that needs to learn more about what you're talking about. I was like, okay. And in that conversation, he had just asked me, well, what's the name of your platform? And I showed him the Strive for 25, and they didn't know what it was, but they saw the number of followers. They saw that there were posts going on. They saw the credibility. It was just a 2-second resume.
Yeah.
And that was enough to be able to create an impact that was lasting, and then open up that door, right? And so if anybody's out there, it's just literally just the consistency, just doing it over and over and over, and not caring about any results.
I can piggyback on that and serve it as another testimony to that. I was at a concert several weeks ago, and a bunch of people I know, I recognize, from the past, but I didn't think that they would remember who I was. But when I would come up and introduce myself to them again, they were like, "Oh, you're Chris. You're that real estate guy I see all over social media and stuff." I was like, "What?" I don't. In my mind, I don't even think I do nearly enough social media. But I'm telling you that like 90% of the people at that concert came up to me or confirmed that they knew who I was and what I did for a living. And my goal for talking to them was more about the nonprofit side of things, trying to get volunteers to go into the prisons, but they knew me as the real estate guy. So, I mean, I was just blown away by that. And it really made me think like, dude, you're making more of an impact than you know. And so people should be conscious of that as well. Like a little goes a long way, doing something is better than doing nothing, So
having no expectations.
No expectations whatsoever.
Because that's hard to do. But if you get there, that's so powerful. Okay, last couple things here. I was going to ask you this before, though. Nashville, you've got properties that you're acquiring and renting by the room. You mentioned 28 units. The need for these rooms, right? The people, like you said, the women, the 5 women, or the guys that are coming out of prison. How big of a need on the consumer side is this ability to be able to rent by the room?
Well, look, it's a national topic, right? I mean, you hear about it on the news all the time, the national housing crisis, the affordability crisis. I think it's nationwide. It's everywhere you go. But to do it properly, you've got to have the right, seasoning in the sauce, I guess you could say. The piece of the puzzle need to be there. There needs to be public transportation. There needs to be job opportunities close by. So like rural America, this probably wouldn't work very well unless they have reliable transportation and a good paying job already. But other than that, the need, unfortunately, is it's desperate. There's a lot of need out there, and there's just so few options.
And you've lived in Chicago, obviously, from there. You lived in St. Louis and Nashville.
Excuse me.
I mean, I would assume Chicago, there'd be a need and opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think there's so much vertical living there, right? Apartment buildings and new apartment buildings that are going up. And they're having a problem getting those units rented. $3,000 for a 1-bedroom. I mean, it's ridiculous. My brother lives there, and I was just there last week, and he tells me how much he pays for rent, and it just boggles my mind. I don't understand how anyone can afford that, but I mean, it's the sign of the times. Downtown Nashville, where there is a big source of jobs and transportation, those apartments, again, I mean, $2,200 is the minimum that I've seen for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Oh, gee, for one bed?
For a 1-bedroom, yeah. I mean, that's hard for somebody that's just coming out of school, just finished college, entry level, entering the workforce. I mean, you're asking them to pay $2,000 a month plus, plus utilities, plus transportation, plus food. You can't have lunch out here for less than $25 for one person.
Gee.
So I mean, and you can't go to the grocery store. You used to say, well, just pack your lunch. Well, it's just as expensive to go to the grocery store now. So yeah, the need is definitely there, and we're hoping to see a break in some of this, man, so where we can make living a little bit affordable again.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
about new construction out your way?
new construction out here is booming. In Nashville proper, Davidson County, a lot of land, like one infill lot, and it doesn't have to be in a great neighborhood, selling for top dollar. And developers are doing it though. They're looking past their normal 20% rules where they're buying land at 20% of whatever the ARV or their final product would cost. They're spending a little bit more because those lots are becoming harder and harder to find. But yeah, perfectly good houses being completely scraped off the lot, and new tall and skinnies is what we call them here. I think
That's right. You're talking about that. Tall and skinnies.
the tall and skinnies is a thing, man. They'll get the lots converted to where zoning will allow them to build two properties on one lot. And we're actually shooting a video about that this week, where you could buy a lot for $70,000 to $80,000 and develop the lot and build two properties on it and sell each property for $600,000 to $700,000 a piece. But they're narrow, they're 20 foot wide, 25 foot wide, and they're side by side. And so there's no real yard, but the young urban professionals, people that live downtown and want to be in the mix and the action, they love it, and they're buying it up like as quick as they can be put up. So
How tall are we talking?
3 stories normally.
Like 10-foot ceilings, like high ceilings, like
Yeah,
nice.
oh, they're beautiful, man. They're beautiful. They really trick them out and make them look really nice. But yeah, they're all over the place.
Cool.
First floors will have real tall vaulted ceilings, and then usually you'll have bedrooms on the next 2 floors, and sometimes they'll build a nice rooftop deck, and you can get a nice shot of the city. I mean, that's where it's at right now. They're actually starting to build and develop the north side of Nashville, which has been kind of ignored for quite a while, but we're starting to see that area really start to build up. Buena Vista, Bordeaux region, all that stuff. I say Bordeaux region like it's France. The Bordeaux neighborhood on the north side of the city is starting to grow like crazy, So it's exciting to see. I feel a desire. I want to get into the development side of things as well. Always looking for partnerships and ways to learn and just see that process start to finish. That's the one part of my resume that I'm missing, that I'm desperately looking to get into for sure.
Cool. Okay. One last thing, personal side of things.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned kicking addiction.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you do it?
Well, to be honest with you, man, I was young, and everyone around me partied, right? But not all of us are built the same. I'm not embarrassed to admit that I was addicted to heroin at a young age. Older guys in my neighborhood were doing it. We weren't shooting up with needles and things like that to us. These guys were just partying, snorting some white powder. And ultimately, man, it took me getting in trouble with the police, spending a little time, sat down. They would take us in. Maybe you'd have to wait a week before you got in front of a judge or could get bonded out. And you would notice that you start getting sick. You start having these physical withdrawal symptoms that were horrible. And you're talking about being 17 years old. My family has pretty much turned their back on me or been fed up with my antics, my behavior. They didn't know what I was doing. It finally took a judge to see that there was a problem, and for me to admit that there was a problem, to get me into a drug treatment program at 17 years old. And I finished that inpatient treatment program after 90 days and went to a halfway house. It was actually the Mercy Home for Boys and Girls in downtown Chicago that had to teach me from start to finish how to live as an adult responsibly, how to manage my time, how to budget my money, how to balance a checkbook. I mean, things that I feel like kids in school today should learn while they're in school, I had to be taught as a young adult. And So, man, I stayed in the program, going to meetings regularly and sponsoring other newcomers, new addicts that were newly being sober. And my life to service at that point from 17, 18 years old has been the constant theme throughout the rest of my life. And that's why I still do what I do, man, because the only way I can stay sober is to help other people, right? If I spend too much time thinking about myself and how can I help me and being greedy and selfish, I'm afraid to end up back in that same pattern of behavior and thinking. So I just learned early on, man, get outside yourself, help others, stop thinking about yourself all the time, and good things will happen for you. So that's been it's been over 30 years now. So
Hell yeah.
yeah, almost 50 already. It's kind of scary. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. And I'm not embarrassed to talk about those things. I actually appreciate you mentioning that and giving me a platform to even discuss that, man. Addiction is not who I am. It's just something that I did and that I suffered from then. And now I try to use those experiences to help other people that I wouldn't normally be able to come into contact with if not for that past.
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about because, you know, when you go through shame, pain, struggle, all those things, right? And you come out the other side, there's so many people that I've seen personally, and I know, and or maybe just public figures that are greats that have gone through that struggle and pain and out the other side. And because of that, it's that extra fuel and vision and clarity and purpose that helps them do things that they never would have done before.
Absolutely. You're only sick as your secrets. That's one thing I learned. That's a motto and a theme that I stuck with. And it stuck with me actually to be open, man, trying to keep it in and try to hide it. I mean, more people know than you think know. They can see it written all over your face. And there's a freedom that comes in just admitting like, hey, I'm human. I screwed up. I need help. That humility, man, that's a blessing in itself, more than you know.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, I'll say that for a different day. Yeah, but no, man, I love it. Thanks for sharing that. And you know, the ability to do hard things, to push yourself to higher limits. Like, you know, I see it every single day on the lending side of things where, you know, somebody may have the vision and goal of buying a house, but it's tough because income and expenses are pretty much flat and they're not able to save money. Having money saved is the biggest limiting factor that I've always seen in lending for people that can't or aren't able to buy a home. But at the same time, especially in the last couple of years with the internet, or not the internet, social media, AI, I mean, there's people that are making money in all kinds of creative ways as I've built the podcast and just meeting more people. And, you know, that drive, right? Like that ability to want to get ahead, the ability to get outside of your comfort zone. So many people are in their comfort zone and are just okay with it.
Yeah.
To get out of your comfort zone, it takes something extra to push you out. And sometimes the things that we're talking about, right? That pain and struggle is one of these fuels that push you out of your comfort zone to do great things. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, because you're doing things that not many people are doing, you know? So I love it. I can't wait to keep watching some of these things.
I appreciate it, man. One last thing before we go on that subject, something that somebody told me that stuck with me was you got to choose your suck, right?
Yeah.
You either it sucks being broke and hoping that you can get to a certain place in life, or you do the hard stuff. Now that sucks, you know, getting up in the morning, going to the gym, eating proper, staying clean, not going out drinking, minding your dollars and cents, being willing to ask for help, trying to learn a new trade, all these things that seem difficult and intimidating, but the benefit on the other side, man, is amazing. So yeah, I hope anyone that's listening, man, if you have any questions or just need someone to talk to, feel free to reach out. Any agents out there that have any questions about any of the strategies I talked about, feel free to hit me up anytime. I'm an open book and more than willing to talk to anybody and be of assistance. Joel, I appreciate you so much, man. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, dude. And we'll follow back up on that case study and strategy.
I'll have that done by this time next week.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
All right, man. Chris Iannotti, thanks for coming on, and we'll definitely have you on again. Talk soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.